On a chilly autumn day back in October 2015, John Brennan, a big shot guy at the CIA, gets a strange phone call out of the blue. Now, if John wasn't John, this call might have seemed like your average prank. But here's the real story. John is one of the most important dudes on the planet. So when the caller says, "Hello John," he's instantly on edge. John's confusion mingled with a hint of annoyance as he replied, trying to keep his composure, "What do you want?" The caller's response came easily, almost tauntingly. "It's so easy, bro. You're such a, you know." Then, a bombshell. "We want $5 trillion. Now, the US government never took this lightly. They called it a conspiracy, identity theft, cyber terrorism, or anything similar that you can name it. But why? Well, it turns out this caller isn't your average prankster. They got a message: stop bombing the Middle East. Meanwhile, across the pond in England, there's a 15-year-old kid named Claire. He's chilling in his room, still holding the phone. Claire's a bit of a rebel, loves to smoke weed, and he's part of a group called Crackers with Attitude. Together, they've been causing chaos for the US security guys, leaking data left and right, and even handing top-secret stuff to Julian Assange. And guess what? They call themselves Anonymous. But rewind a bit to 2008 in Virginia. There's another kid, just a regular American teen, who goes by Default. He's into soccer, video games, and his dog. But he's also curious about hacking. See, Default gets a kick out of bending computers to his will. And back then, hacking was all the rage, especially with groups like Anonymous making headlines. Default dives deep into the world of hacking, learning everything he can. He starts small, hacking random websites for the thrill. But after hanging around Anonymous's chats, he starts to see the cracks. The group's crawling with government agents, there's infighting, and they're getting credit for stuff they didn't even do. So Default joins other hacker groups, like AnonSec, who are kinda like Anonymous but with their own spin. And that's where our story begins, with a phone call, a rebellious teenager, and a curious kid diving headfirst into the wild world of hacking. Moving forward, we've got Default getting deeper into the hacking game with AnonSec. This group is pretty advanced, controlling something called a botnet. Think of a botnet like a big group of computers infected with a virus and under someone's control. With these infected computers, you can do all sorts of things, like spreading more viruses or overloading servers. Default starts poking around in AnonSec's botnet and discovers they've hacked into a server at Windsor University in Canada. Suddenly, he's got access to the university's finances. He finds a list of students who owe money, totaling a whopping $9.4 million. At the bottom of the list, there's a button that says, "Delete all." Now, Default knows it's wrong, but he's tempted. I mean, some of these students owe tens of thousands of dollars. It's like they're stuck in a never-ending cycle of debt. So he goes for it. He deletes everything, wiping the slate clean for these students. But here's the thing. He's not sure if the debt has really gone for good. There are backups and hard copies of these loan agreements, so who knows. But in that moment, Default feels like he's doing something right. It's a rush, you know? And he's not alone. Other hackers might use this kind of sensitive info to make a profit, selling it off to data brokers who gather up all sorts of personal info about us online. It's a shady industry worth billions. That's where Incog comes in. It helps you remove your info from these data brokers' lists, protecting your privacy. Plus, you get a sweet discount with the code FERNTV. But remember, even with Incog's help, your data might still be out there, so be careful with what you share online. Now, back to Default. His hacking isn't just about curiosity anymore. It's about doing some good in the world, as in Denmark, where animal rights activists are fighting against something awful: animal sex tourism. It's disturbing stuff, and it hits close to home for Default, who's got a dog of his own. So yeah, hacking can be a wild ride, but sometimes it's about more than just causing chaos online. It's about making a difference, one hack at a time. So here's Default, teaming up with other hackers to fight for animal rights in Denmark. They go all out, hacking government websites and exposing the ugly truth about animal abuse. Thanks to their efforts, Denmark finally bans bestiality. But Default isn't just hacking for the animals. He's also diving into the world of cryptocurrency, snagging over 1,000 bitcoins, worth a cool $40 million today. But with great power comes great paranoia. Default's always on edge, using sneaky tactics like logging into free Wi-Fi from a Dairy Queen half a mile away. He's encrypting everything and keeping his hacking ops on the down low, knowing he's got a lot to lose. Now let's jump to 2013. Meet Edward Snowden, a guy with a cushy job in US intelligence. But he's got a bombshell of a secret. The US government is spying on basically everyone. Horrified by this breach of privacy, Snowden blows the whistle and leaks classified documents to journalists. His revelations shake the world, sparking a global debate on privacy versus security. Snowden's bold move inspires folks like Default to take a stand against government surveillance. Default doesn't want to be spied on, so he joins forces with crackers with attitude, led by a kid named Cracker. Together, they're not afraid to poke the bear, hacking into sensitive government files and making high-ranking officials squirm. Meanwhile, across the pond in England, there's another teenage hacker named Cracker. He's furious about US foreign policy, especially in Palestine. So he starts his own hacking collective, Crackers with Attitude, and goes after big shots like James Clapper, exposing their personal info for the world to see. These hackers aren't backing down anytime soon. After those mysterious calls, nobody had a clue who was behind them or what they were up to. John Brennan, feeling the heat, decides to play it safe and lay low for a bit. He's got extra security guarding him and his family, just in case. But then, Cracker's hacking skills kick into high gear. He manages to crack into Brennan's email, snagging some seriously sensitive documents. At first, he shares screenshots on Twitter, stirring up quite the storm. But then, inspired by Default, and maybe even channeling his inner Snowden, Cracker decides to take it a step further. He reaches out to none other than Julian Assange, the big shot behind WikiLeaks. And guess what? Assange is intrigued. He ends up publishing those documents in October 2015, including Brennan's 47-page SF-86 application. Now, this SF-86 thing, it's a big deal. It's like the golden ticket to top-secret government stuff. So yeah, things are getting pretty intense in the world of hacking and leaking. And it's all happening behind the scenes, with everyone wondering what's gonna happen next. Here's Cracker and Default teaming up to take on high-ranking members of the intelligence community. They're on a mission to expose them and show that they're not as untouchable as they think. First up, James Clapper, Director of National Intelligence, gets a taste of their hacking skills. They route his house phone calls to the Free Palestine movement, sending a clear message. Meanwhile, Edward Snowden drops a bombshell, calling out Clapper's lies to Congress about government surveillance. Cracker and his boys aren't stopping there. They set their sights on John Brennan, head of the CIA. And get this, hacking into Brennan's email. Laughably easy. They pull it off with a few clever tricks, revealing some seriously embarrassing stuff. Not only do they find Brennan's SF-86 form with all sorts of personal info, but they also uncover some shady government recommendations on interrogation methods. The breach ends up costing the agency millions in damages and relocation fees as operatives scramble to cover their tracks. They keep digging and hacking into more accounts and databases. They hit the jackpot with FBI Deputy Director Mark Juliana's account, uncovering a gold mine of personal info on DOJ officials and FBI agents. And through it all, they're not holding back. They're calling out these high-ranking officials, spamming their phones, and exposing their secrets for the world to see. It's a wild ride of hacking, exposing, and sticking it to the man. And John Brennan? Well, let's just say he's probably not sleeping too well at night. But as they say, all good things must come to an end. Cracker knew he had poked a big bear with his hacking antics, but he wasn't prepared for the consequences. He ended up getting raided by the British police, his computers confiscated, and his team members arrested. As for Default, his downfall came in a moment of arrogance. Drunk and chatting with his friend, he spilled the beans about their hacking exploits, leading to his own undoing. The FBI raided his home, seized his equipment, and slapped him with a hefty sentence. Cracker got off relatively easy with a juvenile detention stint, but Default wasn't so lucky. He faced federal prison time, hefty fines, and solitary confinement, all for what he thought was fighting for political justice. And then there's Snowden, who sought asylum in Russia after his whistleblowing. Despite the risks, he stood by his principles, knowing full well the consequences of his actions. But here's the twist. Even with all this drama, the government keeps on with its controversial surveillance programs. The Biden administration renewed one such program, allowing them to spy on anyone, even their own citizens, without warrants. And the worst part, they've been caught misusing this power, snooping on donors, protesters, and who knows who else. So the moral of the story, messing with the government might seem noble, but it's a gamble with high stakes. And in the end, is it really worth it? So what do you think? Are you gonna play it safe and stick to the straight and narrow? If you enjoyed this story and want to stay updated with more intriguing content, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with your friends. Don't miss out on our latest updates. Hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.